Hello, Rabia Zahnan. Mr. Jumblatt, I have a question for you. Yesterday, Hezbollah made a threat that the consultations will only be for 1 week now, that 1 week has already passed with you being abroad. How's March 14th and the government going to counteract these threats of mass demonstrations to topple the government?
I think the thing that he's not able to understand, or he knows it, Nasrallah, we have to acknowledge, is now, because of his stand against the Israelis, is a leader in the Arab world and Muslim world. But at the same time, only national unity protects him. Of course, he has a huge apparatus, military apparatus, rockets, and he's very tough. He was very tough and very clever fighting. We do recognize that. And even during the eve of the war, middle of the war, I said, you are victorious. Are you going to offer this victory to the Lebanese state or to somebody else? He answered vaguely. He offered the victory to the Arab nation and to the Lebanese people. It's quite vague. If they insist on toppling the government, how can they fix up a new government? That's one. We have the majority. Then it could end up in, unfortunately, maybe chaos, disorder, which could lead to anywhere. Once you have riots in the streets, anybody can have riots in the streets. It will lead to anywhere. So it is a danger for him first, not for us, because he's protected by the national consensus up till now. If he's not willing to accept the national consensus and go beyond national consensus because somewhere he has been ordered by the Syrian regime to sabotage, to torpedo the question of basic items of unanimously agreed upon, first item, main item, the tribunal, it's a risky game.
I will read a question from the other rooms. What role and potential do you see for Parliament post-conflict? Future of role of the Lebanese Parliament once things have settled. Do you care to comment on the role of
the
Parliament?
Role of the Parliament?
Yes, please.
Well, this Parliament, this is the first free Parliament, elected Parliament after the Syrian departure. So I think there inside the Parliament we have, away from Syrian diktat, now we can discuss freely. But I mean, this is not a question just of having a Parliament. I mean, we are. You are speaking with a group, with the people within that are somewhere also beyond the rules of having a parliament. They have a parliament, but they have their own, should I say, indirectly, their own state. I mean, how can you combine between their presence and their militia presence and the parliament? This is a tricky issue. I mean, it's a precedent. Okay, it's a precedent, but.
Okay. Yes, in the middle, please. No, that gentleman. Yeah, can you wait for them? Yeah, here. No, here. Yes. No, that gentleman. Yeah.
All right, my name is Tony Haddad with the Lebanese American Council for Democracy. Mr. Jumblatt, we understand the situation, we understand the problem in Lebanon. And you just told us what the problem is. We want to know what the solution is. If you think that this government, that the Siniora government, your government today is the solution, what kind of solution, how can it implement it? If you think that national unity government might bring a solution, why not go for the national unity government?
National unity government means that the people of Hezbollah, with Michel Aoun, will have the majority or will have the minority blockage. Means exactly total paralysis. Unfortunately, Michel Aoun, by signing this paper of agreement and with Hezbollah, has gone beyond certain, should I say, limits and have acknowledged the fact that Hezbollah are free to keep their weapons indefinitely. This is where we differ with Michel Aoun. And the national unity government, if it ends up next week or the week after, will lead to paralysis in Lebanon. Paralysis means weakening the 1701. Paralysis in Lebanon, meaning nobody can take any decision, and means the end of the International Tribunal.
I'm sorry, no follow-up. No follow-up. May I ask you another question? Again, from the overflow, the UN and the Sheba farms, and what can the US do to help in this regard?
Personally, I think there is no solution as for territorial dispute to be settled if you don't have the two, parties accept to settle this dispute. The Syrian government should acknowledge a document officially, legally, with the Lebanese government that the Sheba farms are Lebanese. Without the Syrians' acceptance, the Sheba farms are neither Lebanese nor Syrian, somewhere vague, and it's a pretext to say that you have unliberated land, less liberated, and then we'll see later on. I don't know, I might be wrong, but I heard that the territorial dispute between Kuwait and Iraq after wars, and that started in 1960, I think, or 61, when Abdel Karim Qasim threatened to invade Iraq, ended up by a Security Council resolution. I think so, but I'm not sure. But without Syrians' approval, legal approval, we can do nothing. Prime Minister Siniora issued this formula that whereby for a transitory period, the Sheba farms could be under United Nations control. I don't know if this is workable. First, you have to know if the Israelis will withdraw. Second, if this formula is workable. I have no idea. I hope it will, but I have no idea.
Yes, in here. Yes.
There's gentleman.
Yes, and then in the back. Sure.
Yahya Qasim. Okay. Yahya Qasim Kansu from Michigan, Ann Arbor Fraternity Lodge, the Masonic Lodge. Mr. Jumblatt, you mentioned that a superpower probably understood that Russia probably is standing behind the Syrian regime against Lebanese sovereignty and trying to push not to establish the tribunal court. Why they're doing like that, and what's the reason for them not to protect Lebanon sovereignty? And do you think that Mr. Michel Aoun is an ally of the Syrian regime in Lebanon? Thank you.
I mentioned that let's say that the Russians have somewhere some reservations. And I've heard today that, well, could be some flexibility in the Russian approach. Okay, so if there is flexibility, it means that the Russians, as they said before, they are for justice and truth in Lebanon. What's the relation with the Syrian regime? That's not my business. It's an old traditional business relation. But, they can keep it. It's not our problem. But our problem is, and we take the Russians on their word, that they want the independence and the sovereign Lebanon, which is good. And I've heard that there's kind of flexibility. And allow me not to comment on Michel Aoun's position. I hope that he will join us, whatever the reservation we have, because he was the pioneer before us at one time in the movement for a free and independent Lebanon.
A question from the overflow. Do you think the window of opportunity is closing to achieve the full implementation of Security Council Resolution 1559 and the disarming of militias to a compromise brokered by different groups?
Look, there is no way to achieve the 1559 implementation, which is the same like Ta'if, okay, which means you have one authority, legal authority, being responsible for holding weapons, exclusive weapons, and declaring war or peace, except by dialogue. Because after all, the Hezbollah's people are Lebanese. But again, the decision-making process of Hezbollah, as I can figure out, is not just in Lebanon. That's a problem. So we don't want to be entrenched into this axis that starts from Lebanon, end up in Tehran, at the expense of our freedom. It's not easy. And here we have to be patient.